Hello and welcome back for another Giant Slayer TFT Top 10 video. Today's video will be a countdown of the top champions for ranked play in patch 10.12. This is the first top 10 champions list for the mid-season update, so expect a lot of changes over the next few weeks as players get used to all the changes. As always, this list is not in order of strength, as each champion is viable depending on the right situation. With that said, let's get into the video. But before we begin, please don't forget to click the links in our description. Give your support to everyone who helped make this video happen. We host many TFT tournaments with plenty of exciting content to come, so be sure to also follow our Giant Slayer TFT social media pages. Alright folks, let's get back to the video, and to start it off, we've got Caitlyn coming in as the number 10 champion. Caitlyn really shines in the early and mid game because her traits are fantastic, alongside an ability that can kill a lot of champions from full health. 2 Chrono remains a popular splash trait, and having it early on in the game does a lot of work since fights last longer. Along with Chrono, there's 2 new snipers added into the game, which makes the trait way easier to run early and mid game than it was previously. Aside from her traits and ability, Caitlyn is a fantastic holder onto physical damage items such as Last Whisper, Infinity Edge, and Deathblade. Look to use Caitlyn as an early item carry to sell later for a wide variety of auto attack carries such as Jhin, Vayne, or Aurelia. Up next, we have Ahri as the number 9 champion on the list. Ahri is returning to the top champions list once again because of how great she is at carrying in the mid game. While her ultimate can be a little bit unreliable at times, it does a lot of damage and it gets augmented by both items and the sorcerer trait. Another added bonus to Ahri with the mid-season update is that you can sell her later on and get a majority of the gold that you spent upgrading her, as upgraded champions now sell for 1 less gold than their total value. The sorcerer trait is doing extremely well in the current meta, and having an early and mid-game carry like Ahri to hold on to items is quite useful. Any magic damage items will work, but the most common ones are likely to be Blue Buff, Morellonomicon, or Deathcap. Give those to Ahri alongside another sorcerer and she can easily carry you through stage 2 and 3. For the first time in set 3, Ezreal is finally making an appearance on the top 10 list as our number 8 pick. Ezreal has always had a place in the meta, but never really stood out as a particularly strong or useful champion. He has mainly been used because he has 2 useful traits with Chrono and Blaster. While his ultimate has always been somewhat useful, it wasn't until patch 10.12 that it's really begun to shine. With his mana going from 5125 down to 5080, it's now possible for Ezreal to cast earlier in a fight and more often. This change was all it took to make Ezreal a worthwhile champion, as he significantly slows down how quickly an enemy can cast their ability. A really strong combination in the current meta is playing him in Rebels with Aurelion Sol. He also provides Blaster for Jinx, but the real duo is him increasing the mana cost of enemies with his ability while Aurelion Sol drains their mana. Outside of Rebels, you can easily play him because of his Chrono, so he has a place in multiple compositions. Another newcomer to the list is Rumble, coming in at number 7. Rumble receives significant buffs to his health and damage in the mid-season update, and that has made him a scary threat throughout the early and into the mid game. In fact, if you're able to play him early, you can often win streak by playing him alongside early Rebels with Ziggs. With a base damage of 500 at level 1 and being able to AoE stun, he makes her quite the scary early game champion. That said, he does get relegated to mainly mech compositions later on in the game, as Gangplank takes his place in Rebels for the late game. Demolitionist also took a hit in the mid-season update with the removal of the spatula item, so it can be much more difficult to play the trait outside of specific situations. Overall, Rumble is a champion you'll get a ton of value out of by running him with early Rebels and as a stand-in for Gangplank. Moving on, we've got quite a few frontline champions to talk about, starting with Nautilus as the number 6 champion. Astro is one of the new traits that was added in the mid-season update, and so far the champions have proven themselves to be an important part of the meta. Nautilus comes in as a 2-cost Vanguard with strong crowd control, which instantly makes him a valuable asset to any composition. Vanguard right now in general is doing quite well in the meta, as they provide a strong frontline for a lot of builds. Nautilus also pairs well with multiple champions, but the 2 best are Gnar and Wukong. All 3 of them provide crowd control, and by sharing traits with them, it makes it incredibly easy to slot in Nautilus when playing either of those champions. All in all, if you're looking for a solid frontline champion, you can always play Nautilus, especially early game, as he's only a 2-cost. Since we already mentioned him, let's talk about the champion coming in at the number 5 spot on the list, Wukong. We've already said how good of a pairing Wukong is with Nautilus, as they are both Vanguard with crown control. But Wukong also brings another valuable trait, Chrono. Chrono is one of the best splash traits in the game right now, and one of the most common to see in any composition. Wukong being both Vanguard and Chrono makes him the perfect choice to run as a frontline champion. Another great thing about Wukong is that he holds frontline items quite well, including damage items. Ionic Spark, for instance, is a valuable item in the current meta with how common Mystic is. Give this item to Wukong, as it helps your champions burn down the front line, and after Wukong casts his ability, he usually makes it to the enemy backline, providing even more value for Ionic. Wukong is easily one of the best frontline champions in the current meta. And the last frontline champion on the list is Gnar as the number 4 pick. Gnar is a new addition to the game, and he really brings back fond memories of Set 1, as he does just as much work now as he did way back then. With the mid-season update, there's a ton of CC available for your frontline, so Gnar is heavily contested due to that. As mentioned, he also pairs well with Nautilus, making it really easy to fit in a third Astro. Once you have 3 Astro, it makes Gnar even more dangerous, as he'll cast his ability earlier on in the fight. This results in him instantly displacing a lot of enemy positioning, which can often be enough to win a fight outright. But honestly, Gnar doesn't even need his traits to do well. So whether you're playing with 3 Astro, in Brawlers, or just by himself, you're always going to find a good amount of value when you're playing Gnar. Alright, we're into our top 3, and first up, we have Cassiopeia coming in at number 3 on the list. Cassiopeia does require rather specific items to do well, those being Blue Buff, Morellonomicon, and Rapid Fire Cannon. Generally, we avoid champions that need specific items on this list, but Cassiopeia is an exception because of how exceptional she is right now. As a new champion added into the mid-season update, she has the ability to actually carry for a Mystic. Because she can carry, the meta developed into 4 Vanguard and 4 Mystic rather quickly, which has now defined the meta as a whole, with players seeking to counter it with the specific compositions and items. Being the cornerstone for such a meta-defining composition is what earns Cassiopeia her 3rd place spot on the list. Next up, we have Urgot as the number 2 champion on the list. Oh boy, Urgot. Urgot all by his lonesome is a champion a lot of players dislike because of how destructive his ability is. Being able to pull in and instantly kill any champion regardless of items, health, or star level is just ridiculously good. The only way to survive Urgot is to either kill him before his ability finishes, interrupt him with CC, or pray that your Trap Claw stays up long enough to block him. But let's not spend too much time on Urgot. We all know he's strong. Let's instead move on and talk about this week's number 1 champion, Thresh. With the mid-season update, it has become clear just how good Thresh is in the late game. Previously, you'd use him to pull in a champion like Lulu or Wukong, maybe a Fizz or a Blitzcrank. And while those are strong champions to pull, they are nowhere near the power of Thresh pulling in Urgot. It does require Thresh 2 for this duo to be truly effective, but having Urgot almost instantly cast his ability upon being pulled is, well, broken. And what's more is that you can pull in multiple Urgots if you have them on your bench as long as Thresh stays alive. It has reshaped the endgame by far, as you often need to have these 2 champions if you want to win the game. Thresh also provides Chrono, which, as we've said multiple times already, is a very strong trait. He also enables Mana Reaver for Cybernetics, which is a current top build in the meta. Even if you don't have Urgot to pull in, there's the newly added Janna alongside all of the other champions we listed before. Basically, play Thresh in the late game. And that's our top 10 champions for ranked in 10-12. But we of course have a few more champions that we'd like to talk about in our honorable mentions. Up first, we've got Bard as an honorable mention because of how unique he is. Bard definitely doesn't have a place in every composition past the early game, and he does absolutely nothing when you're level 9, but if you can utilize him properly, you can get a lot of value. In particular, if you get an early Bard, whether from a PvE drop or your shop, you can use him to propel your economy ahead by not having to spend gold on leveling. Or you can be really aggressive and level alongside the experiences Meeps give you. Later on in the game, depending on your composition, he may help close the gap from level 8 to 9. Just make sure you replace him at level 9, since his ability does nothing at that level. For our next honorable mention, we've got something special this week. Instead of highlighting 1 or 2 champions, we want to talk about how many viable carries the game currently has with the mid-season update. Right now, the game is in one of the best spots it's ever been for having multiple champions that you can utilize as a carry. There's Jinx, Jhin, Teemo, Vayne, Aurelia, Master Yi, Victor, and Riven, with a few others being potential carries as well. There's a ton of champions to choose from. Not all of them have to be used as hard carries either, as you can use them as secondary carries as well. The bottom line is that there's so many choices in terms of carries right now. You can play almost anything and build a composition around it. Of course, there are some limitations, as a lot of these champions do require specific items to run, so what you play each game is mainly determined by your items, but even then, you still have a good amount of choices. For example, Blue Buff is great for Teemo, but also goes well on Riven or Cassiopeia, so even with with that specific item, you've got multiple choices for a carry. Hats off to the developers for making the meta so diverse. All right, folks, that's all we've got for you today. The mid-season update has been a huge success in bringing diversity to the champions you can play alongside shaking up the meta. Let us know in the comment section below what champions you've been enjoying the most and what you're looking forward to for balance in 10-13. Thank you for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for future Giant Slayer TFT videos.